Hey there, Living Waters family. Drew here with another Soul Care Saturday video. So this morning, I was spending some time with the Lord, and I was reflecting on kind of just where life has been over the last couple weeks or so. And I don't know about where you're at in this current moment, but for us in the Berryessa family, we're approaching the beginning of school. And anyone else who's approaching the beginning of school knows that this is not kind of the setup or the environment or the reality that any of us really want to be facing. And I'm just going to be honest with you. I was getting to a very, very grumbly, complainy, kind of negative, bad place with it. And it wasn't helping me. Oddly, it wasn't helping me at all. And I remember I was in a moment where I was just complaining and complaining and complaining and complaining. And I feel like the Lord just gave me this word of correction. And I wouldn't go so far as to say rebuke, but just kind of, those gentle nudges that get you right back kind of focused where you need to be. Like a holy hit upside the head. That's how the Lord works with me. And I remember he just said, Drew, not one bit of your negativity is going to change the circumstance. But it certainly is going to poison your ability to walk well through it. And I thought, crap, you're right. So I just began to start thinking, okay, well, this is what it is. And I need to start getting on board with figuring out how to operate in it rather than complaining about the reality, because it's coming like a freight train whether I want it to or not. So that was helpful. And as I was reflecting on that this morning, because we're getting closer and closer and closer to the beginning of this school, the Lord reminded me of a moment in time several years back. As many of you know some of the story of our oldest daughter, Elena, when she was about 5 years old, just shortly after her 5th birthday. She got very sick and she ended up in the hospital, and she was in the hospital for just short of a month. She developed encephalitis, and for those of you who don't know, that's swelling in your brain. And that swelling and that infection in her brain caused a lesion to form between the two hemispheres of her brain. And the consequence of that was that she lost her ability to speak, to walk. All of her fine motor skills were gone. I mean, it was terrifying for us as parents, and it was terrifying for her. And it was a really, really, really difficult, awful season that we didn't want to be in, that we didn't want to face the reality of, and that we just wanted the Lord to intervene and make it different. And I remember spending probably the first week and a half of that experience praying to that end of like, oh Lord, just bring a miracle, just bring a miracle. I can't face this reality. It's too hard, it's too difficult. And there wasn't, there were small miracles here and there. The reality that the lesion disappeared was a miracle. And, we celebrated that, but it didn't change the fact that the damage had been done. And I remember as we were in this hospital in Portland, there was a subtle shift that began to take place where I just started, my wife and I, Suzanne, we just started taking opportunities to find room for joy, even in the most horrible of circumstance. And, one of the things was that Elena and I would play this game. And at the Children's Hospital, they had these wonderful radio flyer wagons that, if your kid can't walk, rather than pushing them in a wheelchair, you could load them up in this wagon with their IV bag and just kind of pull them along. And it was a little bit more kid-friendly and less scary than all the medical equipment that would have been necessary. But in this hospital, there was this ramp that went in between two wings of the building, and it was sloped like this. And one day I discovered that it was just enough of a slope to get that wagon going pretty good speed. And in just an effort to bring some joy to my daughter, who was scared and hurting and incapacitated and afraid, and for us who were in that same place, we began playing this game called Runaway Wagon. And we would have one of us at the top with her in the wagon, and I would be at the bottom, and we would just start to roll this wagon, and it would go rolling down this thing, and I'd be at the bottom, and we'd be like, runaway wagon! And then I'd catch it, and she would look wide-eyed, and she'd have a little bit of a grin on her face, which was encouraging because we knew, you're in there. You're in there, you're having fun. Something of my daughter is in there. And then we would pull her back up and we would do it again, and just trying to get out of the hospital room and out of the sadness and out of the focusing on the negative parts of our reality. And I guess that's why I want to say the negative parts of our reality, because, you know, some might say, well, that was you were escaping into some other place. No, we were still in the hospital. We were dealing with the reality of what we had, but part of the reality was I was with her. Part of the reality was we had a wagon. Part of the reality was there was a ramp that nobody went on, and we could find a place to have fun. That was also part of our reality. And I chose just to step into that part. A little bit later in our time there was this garden in open courtyard in the hospital. And I remember thinking, I don't know what mental connections are still there, but I want to do everything I can to build them. And so I remember pulling her through this garden, and I would be walking around and I would see something and I would go, Lainey, point to the ladybug statue. And she would make her hand go up and point at it. And it was both a way for her to move her fingers and develop those connections in her brain, and to recognize and also for me to know, you know what I'm talking about and you can follow my commands. You're in there. And those, I'll tell you the truth, those walks in that garden are such treasured memories for me. It's such a precious time of love and connection with my oldest daughter that I would never have had we not gone through that horrible event. But I remember just taking time every day, and plenty of time every day, to focus on the things that we could celebrate, that we could enjoy, that we could do. I was focusing on the good. The reason I bring this up is the Lord reminded me just this morning about the importance of focusing on the good, especially in seasons that seem so bad. And it's not blind optimism, you know. I wasn't unaware of the reality that we were facing. I wasn't denying the reality of the current circumstance. I still grieved where we were at. We still had a lot to manage, but it didn't take away the ability to be able to find the joy. I guess one of the reasons why I felt so impressed to share this today, number one, we're walking into Labor Day weekend. So I am praying that all of you, since we don't have church on Sunday because it's 106 outside and that would be awful, no joy there, I just want to challenge all of you to find the joy, find the praiseworthy, find the circumstances above the circumstance, where we can connect with things that are good, that are life-giving, that are hopeful. We need that. We desperately need that right now. And I also want to encourage in all of this, you know, that reality that as we focus on those things, not to the neglect of what's really happening, but as we focus on those things, something in our heart changes. We begin to engage with hope. We begin to engage with creativity. We engage with agency, meaning, you know, when we're so focused on the negative, we get paralyzed into thinking we're stuck. And we're not stuck. We're never stuck. There's always something we can do to find hope, to find life, to find the Lord in the midst of all this. I know I've needed to remember that this week. In a world where it feels like everything is coming apart at the seams, where animosity and hatred and judgment is creeping its way in, and honestly, it's creeping its way into this family. I didn't think I was going to mention this, but I've watched online and I've seen a lot of, and I've mentioned this I think previous, but recently seen person against person, and yes, we are facing weighty, really difficult things that we must press into, but if we don't remember to find the joy, to find the good, to find the praiseworthy, to find the admirable, to find the noble in each other, even if we are disagreeing about stuff, even if we are, you know, on opposite ends of an ideological spectrum, if we can't do that as the church, as believers in Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith and the anchor of our hope, then what hope is there for the world? So I just want to challenge you all this week. in the midst of this weekend, in the midst of Labor Day, in the midst of the foreboding start of the school year, don't just wait. Go out and find the opportunities to engage in hope. Go and find the opportunities to create hope out of thin air. Find your ramp, so to speak. Find your garden. I think we need that in this next period of time in order to not only maintain our witness well, but for our own souls. At any rate, I love all of you. I know there's many in our church family that haven't come to the outdoor services, whether you're just not feeling safe to do that, or for some reason or another you've just decided not to engage in that. Please know you're missed and that we love you, and we'd love to hear from you to see how you're doing. Also, we're going to get through this, everybody. We're going to get through this. I'm going to get through the first day of school. I am. I know I am. I have no choice, and I have hope. And we're going to get through this season. I just want to encourage you to step into hope, find those places, find those circumstances, and press in. God bless you all.